What's up, guys? It's been a while. It's been a few years actually. I've had a lot of stuff going on. I've had a lot of stuff going on in personal life, but I'm not going to go into it because that's personal life. That's not anything to do with YouTube. It's just my life. I like keeping it separate. But one thing that I do like talking about is card games. Since I was last uploading, I have quit Vanguard, I have quit Yu-Gi-Oh, I have even quit Magic. While I will still play Magic on the odd occasion where people will ask me for a game, but I won't be playing Magic on the channel. I won't be playing it by choice fully because a new game has caught my eye. It's a game that actually came out last year. I Leading up to the game's release, I heard about it and I fell in love with it. It is an incredible game called Battle Spirit Saga, and I have had the absolute fortune of playing the game since pre-launch with proxied cards, just having fun and just enjoying being in the community a lot. I've enjoyed every single person in the community that I've met has been amazing, utterly amazing. Just putting that out there. I love this community. Huge shout out to all the YouTube channels. I'm not going to name them all. I'm going to name two that are big highlights for me: Main Deck Masters and the Nexus. The Nexus, I know a couple of the guys personally. They are incredible guys. They are so nice in real life, and they are so nice just to play around, play with, and just work, work through deck problems and just get better decks and better playstyles. And I just can't thank the community enough, because I also played in the community event a couple of weeks ago. That was amazing to see so many players just joining up to win literally playmats, cores, and sleeves. I was lucky enough to get 7th place. I lost one round in Swiss, that was round 2, against a player called Mexican Gremlin, uh, which I will be talking about in this video, and showing the gameplay. Thank you, Medic Masters, for supplying me with the gameplay, because it was actually streamed. If you want to watch the whole stream, go to Medic Masters channel and you'll find it there. There will also be a link in the video description. And from then on, I didn't lose until my top 8 match with Ayumi, who is an absolutely godlike player. They will play any deck, anytime, and be able to win with it. Yes, they didn't win the whole tournament, it just didn't work out in their favour, and I feel really bad for them, but it's the way the game goes. It's luck of the draw. But that's enough about other players. Let's get into it. Welcome, guys. We've got myself versus Mexican Gremlin. I have set a burst and summoned a Matangle. A Matangle on summon exhausts itself to ramp a core. And then I pass turn over to Mexican Gremlin. Mexican Gremlin sets a burst, takes a while thinking about his turn, and then just passes back to me. So I core draw and refresh, as is the rules. I then follow my turn with a strong draw, drawing 3 and discarding 2. My 2 discards are Beldegor and Andromeda. I haven't seen anything from my opponents, so keeping the Andromeda in hand because I don't know what they're playing. It's a risk, but it's one worth taking. I swing with the Matangle just to get some early aggression in, get damage on board, just to put a little bit of pressure on my opponent, see what happens. my opponent takes a little time with their turn here, but it's perfectly understandable. These high-level play tournaments, it's completely understandable to think about what you can do before you do it, and ends up summoning an Andromeda, killing my Matangle because it's at 3k with 2 cores, which triggers my burst of Starblast Draw, drawing me 2 cards. It's almost like it's Pot of Greed, but better than Pot of Greed because it's Starblast Draw. Because Battle Spirits is just better. That's my opinion. Don't quote me on that. It's just I'm not the biggest fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's just monotone and every deck does basically the same thing. Now, I think about how many cores I've got. I believe at this point in the game I have 7 cores because I ramped 1. This is my turn 3. And I have 8. I had 8 cores because I ramped the core. I decided to summon a Smagg. I don't get the draw because I have 1 more card in hand than my opponent, but I get a core from Void to Trash from the unsummon, and then swing for another damage just to get a little bit more aggression. Put my opponent down to 3. And now it's my opponent's turn. I also swung the Smagg to avoid the Confront from Andromeda because Andromeda has, at level 3, 10,000 power and Confront. Confront is just a you must block this if able effect. So I exhausted my Smagg by attacking, so it can't block, and therefore protecting it, keeping an extra 1 reduction for everything on board, because Smagg is rather unique in that it counts as every colour in the game, of which there are 6. So it's well worth summoning early to get the reduction on board, just to get early game easier plays. I follow that with Mecha Beast Fortress Gnomenguard. Gnomenguard is one of my favourite cards in the game, just because of its look. I love that it's just a giant mecha elephant. I am a Black Ranger fan from Mighty Morphin, so it's a Mastodon. Awesome Zord, awesome card. Loads of people were saying it's a problem, hate it, but I love the card. If it ever gets banned, I am gonna cry. So after I put my opponent down to 2 with a swing from Smagg, he activates Big Bang Energy. Big Bang Energy is kind of a worrying thing to see when they're at 2. But seeing that they're gonna pay 1 to summon an Ira, I believe. 3 for Big Bang. Ira, I do have to remind him that he does have to pay 1 for the Ira because he's at 2, not at 1, and he only has 1 reduction available. But once again, it could just be nerves, completely understandable. And then the Ira effect resolves, destroying both of my spirits, drawing Mexican Gremlin 2 cards. But because my Gnomenguard was destroyed by an opponent, I draw 3 and ramp 3 cores straight into my reserve. And that puts me in quite a good spot, to be honest. I very much like the way my hand looked at this point in the game. It was nice and early to see a ramp 3, draw 3, just early cores, early ramp. And I love the fact that, thanks to Main Deck Masters for this footage, they were discussing my deck and Mexican Gremlin's deck, talking about them both being Rage Star Dragon Seaworm Ira decks. My deck is more of a control deck with an Ira option, Ira is not a primary way to win. It's not anything that the deck is built around. It is just I ran 4 Andromeda anyway. I might as well stick 2 Ira in just to get the extra destruction of multiple spirits, clear the board for a nice wide swing, or even an Ira 2 symbol, just bonk, dead. So my opponent attacks with Ira. I decide to Dream Bomb it back to hand. Now I know it is there. I know that I can deal with it when it comes back down. It's well worth me just allowing it to go back to hand, because I also figured, hey, they might not have a 6-drop available, but if they do, so what? I'm summoning an Andromeda down, destroying the Volcanic Canyon to prevent the filtering into the late game. I do have to swap my bursts here because I realise that I'm a 3. I do not want to be going down to 1 from an Irish Ring or 2 from anything else. So I get rid of a Dream Bomb out of my burst and place down something that will remain a mystery, but I'm sure most of you can guess what that'll be. So I swing with the Beldegor to get another damage, just in case, just to make him have the Ice Shield, because if he didn't, he was dead. So he does use the Ice Shield, staying at 2 life, which is well worth it. He sets another burst. You can see that I just constantly messing around with my hand. I'm a bit of a fidget when it comes to games. It's not a nerves thing or anything. It's just mostly there to be something for my brain to do while I'm thinking. It's a sign that I'm thinking about what to do next. So I'm thinking about maybe 3 or 4 turns ahead, assuming that my opponent plays the way I think they will. My opponent then plays a Ancient Draw, drawing 2, and then seeing virtually nothing off of the top, and putting all 3 of those cards to the bottom. And then he decides to just pass it back to me, which is very nice, just the way I like it. I like having the options. I decide I want to drop another Gnomon Guard onto this battlefield, because should my opponent actually resolve that Ira that I bounce back to their hand again, I will once again draw 3 and ramp 3, which will keep me in the game. I decide to summon at level 2, level 2 being after my attack step there is a refresh step and then my end step. So getting the refresh is huge here. Like, it allows me to put all my cores back, keep all my spirits as blockers. So let's see what Mexican Gremlin does. He goes with a Starblast draw. He's playing a red deck. Playing a Starblast draw for retail is very much not what he wants to do, but it's something that he just had to do because I kept on clearing his board, just removing his spirits, controlling what he's doing, keeping my tempo up and his tempo down. He then decides to do another Starblast draw for 1 reduction because of the Rubius, also known as Elemental Chicken, or KFC, some people. Other fried chicken brands are available. And then passes it over to me. I decided to summon an Alrune, ramping 1 core, summoning at level 2, just in case, because I had a feeling that there were Dustworms potentially in his deck. So I then decided to swing with Alrune, exhaust the Rubius from her effect, and then trigger another Ice Shield. I believe that's number 3. I was like, another one. Going through my brain was, how do you have so many Ice Shields? But it's just the way of the game. In another round, I saw 0 Ice Shields. In the next game, I then saw 3 in the top 4, and decided to put that hand back promptly. But that round was not caught on stream, unfortunately. I wish I'd have recorded all my own games, but I am extremely thankful to main deck masters again for actually responding to my message about potentially getting the footage. They are a huge help for the community. So my opponent brings down a Blazing Boar. Blazing Boar grabs any red spirit on summon from trash, and so grabs back the Andromeda. So my opponent takes this opportunity to play a Big Bang Energy because he is at 2 life and now has 2 reduction, so all of his Star Dragons are free for the rest of the turn. The Andromeda will kill my Beldegor because it is the only target. It's at 2k, all my other spirits are at the very least 6k in power, other than the Beldegor. Beldegor being a drop very much suits me because it's so useful to have the option of just, okay, if they kill something on swing, or I decide to potentially flash in a spirit that costs 4, that shall not be named right now, because that's spoilers, I can potentially then get the Beligors back when they die. So I resolved my elephant after my opponent drawing 6 from the Rubius effect, his 2 spirits and my 3 spirits. It's just so many cards in his hand right now. I was worried knowing that he drew 6 cards. And then he summons Rain Needle. That's a really interesting play because Rain Needle is one of those cards that is very good at protecting Ira in particular from Deadly Balance. Deadly Balances 3 cost 2 reduction purple. Main or flash, your opponent chooses one of their spirits and then you choose one of yours, and both of the spirits are then destroyed. So basically if I had a Deadly Balance and he only swung with Ira, I'd be able to kill Ira with Deadly Balance, which would have been really useful, to be honest. However, needs must. He does summon the Nova, putting the Soul Core back into the void. Both myself and Mexican Gremlin missed the fact that he put the Soul Core in trash, mistakenly, probably just through nerves. Like, I'm almost certain that there was nothing meant by it. In fact, I am certain. Like, I reminded him when it a little bit later, and he goes, "Oh shit," and puts it back, puts it in the void, and no harm done. So I play a Baculus, stripping all but 1 core from all spirits, and then I put a core back on Baculus to put him at 2, and then I summon Infernal King Curse Dragon, which on summon strips 1 core from all other spirits, and then ramps a core for each spirit destroyed this way. So I only killed my opponent's spirits because I put a core back on Baculus. Ugh, that's hard to say. Back on Baculus. Ooh. I decided to set a burst here and summon another Alrune, because Alrune is such a nice card to use. I swing in with Baculus, my opponent having set a burst. My opponent just decides to take the damage, despite having a burst set, so I'm thinking, oh, maybe that's something like a Dream Bomb or a... what am I thinking? It could be a Starblast draw, which I suppose they would have used it beforehand, but me knowing what I know now, which is after this game is finished, it's been about a week, I know that it is an Ice Shield, and I know it's their last ice shield. My opponent goes in with another retail established draw, nearly acting as if it's the second part of ancient draw, but he realizes, and I barely caught what the card was. I believe it's Volcanic Canyon, which I did catch. This is the point where I remind him about the Soul Core. We then work out, did he core for turn, which we came to the conclusion he did, which he did if you check a little bit of the video ago. He does grab a core from the void, put it into his cores, and then we carry on, because I noticed it as he moved his hand over there to pay for another card. He then summons Andrometeos. Andrometeos is a 4-cost spirit that, on attack at level 2 and 3, checks the top 3 for a Star Dragon, and then puts the rest on the bottom. He decides to play the Canyon as well, and then think about his hand, swinging in with the Andrometeos, getting the effect off. So I see a Nova and a Dustworm. I initially thought he was going to take the Nova, because most of my spirits are kind of small. They are easily killable by a Nova swing, but he decides to grab the Dustworm, which I agree with in hindsight. So I block with the Alroom, which is 8k to Andrometeos' 7k, I believe. And when Alroom blocks, she exhausted the Rubius. So I core draw refresh. During the stream, they commented that I was quite a bit ahead at this point. I didn't feel like it in the game. I felt I was in trouble because I was at 2, my opponent was at 4. So I was just digging for ways to answer things as they come up. And thankfully I found a few. So I go Starburst draw, Strong draw, and then think about it for a minute, because I had an option of being a little bit more aggressive or just activating the Strong draw again. Drawing 3, discarding 2. I discarded an Evangelion Art Ostrara. Ostrara being a spirit that on summon ramps a core if you pay the Soul Core for its cost. So here I play down another Alrune, ramp another core, and then just chuck the core on the Baculus, because that core doesn't matter. I swing in the Baculus because it is the smallest of my spirits. I tend to think of swinging the smallest thing first against an Ira matchup, just in case of a Volcanic Break, Burning Force, Ritual Fire, stuff like that. So my opponent takes it. I then swing with Curse Dragon. I believe at this point I was thinking potentially he was much lower. I potentially thought he was at 1 life, because I can only see 1 life, but you'll see that's not the case in a second, because the Ice Shield comes down, the last one. I then ask him to just move his life counter so I can see the full thing, just because I was confused at what life he was at. Once again, it was just a case of camera setup. They're not always perfect. I had a lot of time on my hands, so I set up a full rig for mine, and just to get as much of my play space, life, deck, even my void on show as much as possible. I even set up a face cam so they could see my face, so that I didn't, they could see my hand at all times, because I tend to bring my hand close to me when I'm playing. So my opponent is at 2 life. I, in this game, brought them down to 2. They Nova'd, and then I brought them down to 2 again. in the comments, who do you think wins this game? This is game 1, by the way. We have not missed any of the other games I played with Mexican Gremlin. This is game 1 of round 2. My round 1 was a win against Hydra. Very good Hydra player, just didn't work out for them in the end. I just saw everything I needed. So it was just one of those things that just can't be avoided. Where if you don't see what the cards you need, you just don't see them. It all of my opponents on this day were incredible players. I cannot fault any of them. Everyone did such a good job. So the Dustworm summon triggers my Starblast draw after killing my Baculus. So sad about that Baculus. That poor undead. Dying again. So there's a big potential here for me to just have an issue. I have a lot of cards in hand. I think I have like 8 cards in hand at this point. Once again, this is being recorded the Friday after the tournament, which is 6 days later now, which is a little bit later than I wanted, but it's just one of those things. So, because all of my board was 1 symbol spirits, they all were destroyed, which was a little bit unfortunate, because I would have liked to have been able to block with an Owl Rune, get a Beldegor trigger off, but it wasn't to be. So my opponent summons a Rain Needle, calls up the Canyon, and prepares to go in. Because I'm at 2 life, I have to answer this Ira, which I do. I do have an answer, which is what I wanted to do was Dream Bomb the Rain Needle. I do have to clarify that I am targeting the Rain Needle. So the Rain Needle will go back to hand. And then my opponent chooses to no flash. I then choose to flash, because it goes back and forth until both of us say no consecutively to deadly balance the Ira. Deadly balance works even if I have no spirits, because you do as much of the card as you can, and because destroying one of your spirits is not a part of the cost, it's part of the resolution, you can use it even if your board is empty. So I go ahead and summon the Matangol. I summon it at level 3, choosing not to exhaust and ramp, because at this point I don't really need the ramp, I just need cards on board. I decide to summon the Curse Dragon, take a core off the Matangol, put it back on. I am running kind of low on spirits in hand. That's the only issue I was having at this point in the game. My opponent had just killed so many of my spirits. I swing with the Curse Dragon. Deadly Balance comes down. Kills the Matangol. I'm like, okay, I can at least get 1 damage through. Put him down to 1. But then the second Deadly Balance hits. And I'm like, oh no. This is not okay. I am in trouble. I flashed the Scorpal here. I firmly believe that I misplayed by doing that. Because I didn't swing. I should have swung. I should have put him to 1 in this situation. But hindsight is 2020, as some people say. But in the moment, I felt like that was the best play. I was like, okay, they might not have something to kill it, but I was obviously mistaken, because I forgot Andromeda exists. Andromeda can pop 3k or less, and guess what? Scopal is. It is 3k level 2, which I did not very much like. So my opponent comes in, plays the Big Bang Energy again. For 2, summons a free Andromeda, killing the Scopal. Scopal on death exhausts one of my opponent's spirits. He decides to exhaust the Rain Needle, which I kind of agree with. It's the smaller of the spirits, it's easier to kill off. And then he summons the Ira, so it didn't matter anyway. And I scoop that game there because I don't have a way to get rid of an Ira in hand. So a swing from Ira just kills me. So I decide to scoop it up, go to game 2. I firmly believe that Scoreboard Blade cost me that game. But Mexican Gremlin was such a good player. He was such a good sport. We had a good time playing, as far as I could tell. At least I did. He was a really good guy. He was talking about how some of the gameplay aspects of Battle Spirits were really cool. I decide to side out 3 and side in 3. So in Battle Spirits you can side in more cards, but you just can't have a deck size over 60 anymore. In the original draft of the rules you could have a deck size of any, but I think somebody definitely made a deck that was too large. But I'm okay with maximum 60. I play with a 50 card deck and 10 card sideboard. Some people play with 52 card deck, 10 card sideboard, all manner of combinations all the way up to 60. So I'm nervous now because this is my first game loss of the day. I lost this game. I was like, okay, pressure's on now. You can even see it in my face a little bit. I am stressing out. So I decide to go first, which is normal for my deck. I also keep the hand. So I just get ready because I'm on the play, and I kept the hand. So I drew the additional card for keeping the hand, and just put the card on the table, ready to draw it for turn. I go back in with a Metangol. It seems very familiar, but Metangol is a 4-of in my deck. I love the card. It's my Mushroom Man, and I can't fault Metangol for anything he does. I love the fact that he's just turn 1 ramp. My opponent just sets a burst and passes. I learned from last game that he is playing red and playing Andromedas. So I decide to just strong draw here. So I strong drew and discarded 2 Beldegors. That's important because my opening hand had no Beldegors, but also had no strong draws. I loved the fact that I drew strong drew for turn, played it, drew 2 Beldegors, and ditched both. That, I was like, my brain just went so happy with, I just did that. I did the perfect strong draw. So my opponent, because I didn't swing, only had 6 cards available, so couldn't summon an Andromeda if he wanted to. Just plays Ancient Draw instead, drawing 2 and checking top 3 for any number of Ascend Spirits to add to hand, and finds none. And then he just passes back to me. I summon a second Metangol, Rampikid Core. Once again, this is another hindsight moment. I know that he's playing red. I saw a Burning Force in game 1 go to bottom. I should have realised that he was playing Burning Force, but my brain just went, nope, you're not remembering things today. So he takes the damage. I should have moved all of my spare cores to one of the Metangol, just to put it at 5k instead of 3, because it's 5 cores for 5k. I really should have cored up one of those Metangols to keep it on board as reduction and a blocker, or an attacker for later. But once again, hindsight is perfect information, considering everything that happened. So my opponent does come out with a Burning Force here, killing both Matangols, which is not ideal for me. I have 4 spirits and 1 magic in the drop. From here, my opponent just passes the turn. I core draw and refresh, as is the rules. I set a burst. I then decide it's a good time to summon an Andromeda into an empty board. Might not be the most ideal play, but I decide to do it anyway. I swing. And out comes a Deadly Bounce. Deadly Bounce killing my Andromeda. I'm like, okay, I'm not too fussed. You kept yourself at 4 life instead of going down, and I was okay with that. I was okay to get a Deadly Bounce out of his hand for later. Out comes a Andrometeos. Andrometeos again on attack, check top 3 for a Star Dragon, and then put it down. The rest go to the bottom of the deck. So he attacks here, checks top 3, finds a Dustworm and an Andromeda. God, my words are not working for me today. But he takes a little bit of time and decides to take the Dustworm because he is at 4. To get the max reduction on Dustworm, he just needs to take 1 damage. Which I was like, okay, I know you've got Dustworm in hand. I'm not going to give you that damage until I know I can deal with the Dustworm. I do also know that Main Deck Masters has released the raw footage and stream audio for this. I really appreciate that they've done that. I asked them for permission to use the footage to make my own video, obviously with crediting them, which I believe I have definitely done so because I have fanboyed over them a little bit. I strong draw, discarding a strong draw, and I believe another card in hand. I can't remember which card now because I was talking and got distracted because I'm me. I summon the Smagg, drawing a card because I have 5 cards to his 8, and ramping a core because I summoned at level 2. I decide I'm going to pass turn and not swing because I'm thinking, okay, if there's an Andromeda, it has to swing to kill the Smagg, and I know there's a Dustworm in there that he might not want to summon without paying, but out comes a Floodstream, which I did not see in game 1, to kill off my Smagg, which I was very, very, very annoyed about, because Smagg is my baby. It is a deck that I have been tweaking since Smagg as a card came out. I played white, purple, green Smagg in Glasgow Grand Open. That also had like all of the colours available at the time, which was 5 of them. It ran like Hippocampos for early game aggression and life gain. It was very interesting to play, but very fun. I then moved towards a more red and yellow centric Smagg, but I eventually settled on this Smagg, which is like purple red. I bring down a strong draw, Starburst draw, sorry, to just draw 2, and then I decide to pass turn because I have schemes. So I very much like scheming with my decks. I like building around a playstyle that I identify with, and I identify with control. I identify with keeping my tempo up and your tempo down. So I played Tempo White for a while. Tempo White's really fun. The Valkyries, the Tigers, the awesome regime beasts, by the way. Awesome. So my opponent doesn't do much. He summons a Rain Needle and swings with the Andrometeos, grabbing a Andromeda. I did clock that it was an Andromeda. I decide to flash out a Scope Owl. So Scope Owl comes in. I asked if my opponent has a flash. I say no flash. I decide to block with Scope Owl. Both of us say no flash. He decides to exhaust the spirit immediately as Scope Owl dies, which is fair enough. I think he forgot that I have 2 Beldegors that I was going to be using. So I summoned 1 Beldegor, this is the way you have to do it. You summon a Beldegor, do its effect, and then summon the other one. Because I had just enough cores to do this play. And that was my scheme. I counted my cores, and it was just the right amount. It was 9 cores. 9 cores to do that entire play. And it went seamlessly. So my opponent, after that play, decides to pass back to me. I core up the Beldegor, pay 3 for an Ostraura, ramping a core. I then say that I've summoned it. So I fanboyed over the fact that it's a Mecha Ostrich for a minute, and then swing with the Mecha Ostrich because it is the smaller of my 2 spirits. It's 3k at 2 cores and doesn't have a higher level, so I don't put any more cores on it. I swing with it. Beldegor's at 4k, and I decide, okay, I'm going to push you down a little bit more, swing with the Beldegor. Because either way, if there is a Big Bang energy that's going to come down, I can go, okay, you Big Bang, I follow up with my spirits die. I was kind of okay with that. I was okay with my spirits dying to this. So a Rain Needle comes down for 1. The length of rounds was 50 minutes for this tournament, which is shorter than the tournament rules manual, but everyone was okay with that, including myself. I did not mind the fact that it was shorter rounds. It's just that as a control player, usually people assume that I'm not okay with that, but I'm a control player that likes to close out games. I like to be able to close out a game with the control deck. If your control deck can't close out a game, I think you've made a mistake somewhere. So my opponent comes down. He mistakes the Dustworm's cost, so he plays it for 1, as if it had no reduction, but it has all of its reduction fulfilled. Plays it for 2, as if it has no reduction fulfilled from its effect, but just the 1 from the Rain Needle. Which he pops my Ostraura. I Starblast draw from Burst, drawing 4. He Starblast draws from hand, drawing 2 for 2. I paid 4 for my Starblast draw. We both paid the same amount of cores that we drew. Nice coincidence that happened in the same turn. Out comes a Grey, which he didn't actually pay enough for, but it checks out because he paid for the Dustworm when he shouldn't have, so it works out fine, perfectly fine, doesn't matter. He did pay the Soul Core for it, summons down a Nova. So Nova comes down, destroys the board. Nova comes down, gets rid of the Void, voids the Soul Core, goes back to 5 life. I'm thinking, not again. But it's one of those. one of those. It's an overdeck. It's always gonna go back to a life total you're not happy about. And then swings with the Nova, killing the Beldegor because it pops any number of spirits total 10k power or less. Beldegor has 4,000. I then flash a Scope Owl, putting 2 cores on it. Block with the Scope Owl. And then flash Ice Shield because I don't want to go down to 2, so I decide it's better to block with the Scope Owl, defend myself from any damage this turn by using the Ice Shield on the block. So then it's my turn again. I drop a Baculus. Baculus comes down, removes all but 1 card from all spirits. I then pay 9. 9 for a Seagworm Ira. Putting me down to 2 cores left total. I kill all 3 of his spirits and sacrifice my Baculus. I set a card in burst and then go, okay, I have 2 cores. I ask how many cards he has in hand, and it's a few. So I'm like, okay, you got a few cards in hand. You generally play big spirits. If you play an Ira, I'm not dead from the Ira. So my thinking was, screw it. We're going in. So I go in with my Ira, taking him down to damage, and then passing turn. His turn, he goes Deadly Balance to kill my Ira. Wasn't too happy about that because that was my Saga rare Ira. How dare you kill my Saga rare Ira? He was pretty. And then he comes down, plays Ancient Draw. After that, revealing Meteor, Seagworm, and 2 Iras. So he didn't realise that he had to take both Iras with the Ancient Draw. I had to remind him. So he grabs both cards back out after nearly fully putting them on the bottom of his deck, which is fine. Because I watched exactly where the cards were going. I knew exactly what was revealed, so I knew he couldn't grab anything else. Not that he would. He seemed like a very honest and genuine guy that he just didn't know. So he's got 2 Iras in hand that I know about. I'm not happy about this. So he counts up his cores. He has 8 cores, I believe, which isn't enough to do a lot because I've been able to just keep him off of reduction and off of spirits primarily. And I wasn't too fussed. He plays the Rain Needle, swings the Rain Needle. I'm like, okay, it's 1 spirit, but I'll still Ice Shield, keep myself at 3, because staying at 3 against an Ira player is very important, because you run the risk of just dying if you're at 2. If you go to 2 and they summon Ira and you don't have an answer, you die. But I do have an answer for the Rain Needle that's on board. It's Beldegor in hand. Beldegor is MVP of this entire deck. He just comes out, does so much in the moment. Love this card. You'll notice the theme. This deck is just cards Matt loves. Yes, I do use my real name. I use Matt for all of the Battle Spirit Saga tournaments. You'll see my name on Cosmic's video as he talks about my deck as just a Smagg Ira deck. I genuinely don't like people calling my deck a Smagg Ira deck because it's it's not what I was going for. It's not the vibe of deck that I wanted. It's a Smagg control list. It's a control deck that just tries to control the game and just allows me to create openings. So I swing here. Swing in with the Ostraura because it's, once again, the lowest spirit, just in case there's Burning Force anywhere. Any spooky Burning Forces. He doesn't use anything at 3 life, so I go in with the Smagg, thinking, oh, that could be something else set. So he goes down, I shield, and I'm like, no. So he puts the core back in life, pays for it. I can't attack anymore for this turn. So then it goes back to him. Core, draw, refresh. So he comes down, plays Blazing Ball. Blazing Ball comes in and grabs... I believe he grabs an Andromeda, if I remember correctly. But we'll see when he picks up his trash. But no, I was wrong. He selects a Rain Needle. Rain Needle goes back in hand. I guess he just wants the reduction, which is perfectly reasonable. Reduction in red is so important because you don't ramp. And then follows up with a Big Bang Energy. After I saw 2, maybe 3 earlier in the game. I think that's his last Big Bang that isn't on the bottom of his deck. Down comes Andromeda. Andromeda comes in, blows up the Ostrich. I was really sad about the Ostrich dying because it's pretty. I am on a mission to make every deck in my Smagg deck pretty. So there isn't a timer like quickly available to me, but you'll notice something at the end of this game that annoyed a few people but didn't phase me that much. So down comes 1 Ira, ascending off of the Blazing Ball because it's ascend cost 4 or more. And then if you used a 6 or more, you then destroy all single symbol spirits, and then the other one ascends over the Andromeda, killing my spirits and his Rain Needle, drawing him 3. Then he pays 2 for Volcanic Canyon, which is correct, despite having 4 reduction on board, because Ira is massive for reduction. I'm staring down the barrel of 2 Iras. I am not happy about this. Ira swings. I, in response, flash Dream Bomb, bounce the non-attacking Ira. But I suppose it doesn't really matter. I just specified the non-attacking one for some reason. I think my brain was going, ah yes, well, non-attacking one. And then Deadly Bounce. Deadly Bounce kills the other one. So either way, that would have resolved the same way, in both Iras being removed from the field, me taking no damage. He then passes back to me. Eventually. So core, draw, refresh. I play the Andromeda that was in my hand, destroying the canyon. I then go to pay for another copy of Ira. But time gets called on the round, and in Battle Spirit Saga, when time gets called in game 2 of a match, the turn player finishes the phase, and then at the end of that phase, if there is no clear winner of that game, which there wouldn't have been, I was main phase, I was just about to summon an Ira, and I couldn't do 2 damage. In that phase, I could only do that in attack phase, but since I wasn't in attack phase when time was called, I decided to just let's just pick up the cards, shuffle them, get ready for the next round. There was a few discussions in the stream chat that I conceded. I did not concede. I lost to timeout rules, which are a part of the game. I don't mind them. I don't really care that I lost that way. Both myself and Mexican Gremlin played really well. I was in the zone. And a big thank you to Mexican Gremlin, the judges, and main deck masters. Thank you very much. Good playing. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for sticking it out this long. It's a long video. I 100% understand if you didn't make it all the way through. But if you did make it all this way through, thank you very much, and goodbye.